The thing is, the Leave America narrative for a better life abroad has become so commonplace that Americans believe it as a fact and truth. Remember, if you sell a lie long enough, people will start to buy it. And here is the clincher. We've shared this statistic with you before, and it's this. 75% of expats end up going back home just within the first 2 years, and that statistic is backed up by various studies and reports. Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. You've been bamboozled by your own American media. Everything you see and hear in videos, on social media, in travel articles, they're all based on opinions and biases. Forbes, Newsweek, HuffPost, CNN, MSN, and many more. Let's cut the bull and get right to the chase. Have you noticed that American media actually pushes and entices Americans to move to other countries? But how often do we hear the media in other countries telling their citizens to leave and move to another country? Could you imagine the Italian media, for instance, writing articles and making videos about how terrible it is to live in Italy, and so Italians should move to Canada for a better quality of life? France does not write biased travel reports either, telling the French citizens how much better living in another country would be for them. Wouldn't it be really weird if the French started peddling to its citizens that only if they moved to the USA, their life would change for the better? Americans are being played down a yellow brick road that promises them fool's gold, but at the end of the rainbow, the chariot turns into a pumpkin. There's a clear-cut agenda for Americans to move abroad, and that's bad news. The thing is, the Leave America narrative for a better life abroad has become so commonplace that Americans believe it as a fact and truth. Remember, if you sell a lie long enough, people will start to buy it. And here is the clincher. We've shared this statistic with you before, and it's this. 75% of expats end up going back home just within the first 2 years, and that statistic is backed up by various studies and reports. The statistic means that 4 out of 5 Americans that were enticed to move to a foreign country with promises of everlasting happiness returned home before 5 years. Now this is quite an admission. 73% of Americans that moved to Spain returned home within 2 years. And get this, Spain is one of the countries that the American media loves to say has a better quality of life than your own. There's that fool's gold again. If only you move to Spain, you'll finally have the life you've always dreamt of, they say. That's almost 3/4 of American expats. That means 3 out of 4 people that go to Spain are returning home. It's the majority of Americans returning home within 2 years. Statistics are becoming clearer now, actually showing more trends and numbers of American expats living abroad and their return rates. These statistics differ widely from what the mainstream media is trying to push us. Here's some of the reports and studies from the Expat Insider Report, the Global Mobility Survey, the Knight Frank Global Property Report, Cultural Adaptation Studies, and the PwC's Global Survey on Migration. These resources provide a comprehensive view of the data behind expat returns. So why is this important and why is it bad news? Well, it's finally showing that moving and retiring abroad is suspiciously glorified and way overvalued when we see that the majority of Americans are actually returning home before the 2-year mark. Forget about 5-year. We've been bamboozled by our own media. Recent Data suggests that as many as 75% of American expats consider returning home at some point, indicating a significant shift in their perspective about living abroad. So while the majority of Americans return home, there is still that segment of the population, mostly those who have not experienced living in a foreign country yet, that are still falling for the fool's gold at the end of the rainbow. They're caught up in the life is better abroad narrative that 95% of travel peddlers promote. The agenda is not going away, folks. It's here to stay. But the reasons why majority of expats return home are always the same. High living costs, issues with healthcare systems, the desire to reconnect with family and friends back in the U.S., the political instability and crime rates. So even more revealing about Americans abroad is this. Sources say that Americans living abroad are experiencing distressing emotions while living in a foreign country. Did you know that? Loneliness, isolation, sadness and depression, stress and anxiety are just some of the emotional upsets people are feeling while they live and try to adapt in a country that is completely foreign to them. Now you can see with your own eyes, it's not just the whiners and the negative channel that reports on these things. It's really happening. Emotional and mental health issues among American expats. It's estimated that 30 to 40% of American expats experience emotional and mental health challenges while living abroad. Common mental health issues are culture shock, isolation, stress and anxiety, and depression. Now, this is really bad news for expats because these are serious emotional and mental issues. Now, would these expats have experienced such terrible emotions had they not been promised an illusion of grandeur and everlasting happiness, or what many promoters call the new American dream, if they just leave the USA? You see, when a person is greatly expecting something and then is greatly let down, it can bring on heavy disappointment and such emotions as these. The next reality report is showing us that expectations can negatively change the outcome of our emotions. Here are some studies and sources that actually document the prevalence of the mental and emotional effects of living in a foreign country. The key studies and findings. This study indicates that around 50% of expats are at risk for anxiety and depression, which is 2.5 times higher than their counterparts living in the U.S. Now, that's really high percentage of American expats that would be susceptible to negative emotions while living abroad. Also, expats say and often report that they feel trapped or depressed at rates 3 times higher than domestic workers. But we're told exactly the opposite of that by the American media. We're told the American dream is moving abroad, and many people believe this puffery and chase the rainbows and lollipops, thinking the one thing, just that one thing that will make them happy, moving to a foreign country. But according to what William Russell Research is saying, that's not the case. And also, Expat Mental Health Support is also saying that expats experience higher levels of psychological issues, including anxiety and adjustment disorders and marital challenges while living outside of their home country. If anyone is still not getting it, we have the reality versus the fairy tale. And here it is. The fairy tale is living abroad will make you happier. Living abroad will not necessarily make you happier. You may become lonely. Number 2, moving abroad is the answer to all your problems and they will vanish from your life. Reality is, Moving abroad is not the solution to your problems. You take your problems with you wherever you go, and also you end up swapping a previous set of problems for a whole new set when you move abroad. Number 3, the fairy tale is, I'll be safer living outside of the USA. Reality, you will not be safer living outside of the USA. Expats are targets of crime. Number 4, the fairy tale is, my life will be easier and less stressful abroad. Reality, in some ways it may appear easier, but it will also become more complicated and challenging. Number 5, you will live like a king in another country. Reality, no, you won't live like a king. It's one of those promises that doesn't get delivered for various reasons. It's been documented. Number 6, the fairy tale is, living abroad will change you for the better. Reality, living abroad is only an experience we have. It doesn't change who we are. Number 7, the fairy tale is, you will learn a lot about yourself living in a foreign country. Reality is, yes, you will learn more about your likes and dislikes when you live abroad. Number 8, the political situation is better abroad. Reality, there is no place where expats move to without political conflict and drama. 9, the fairy tale is, I will have more affordable health care abroad. Reality is, that's what you're being told, but we are curious to know why Americans always come back home to the USA for their health care when living abroad. And lastly, the fairy tale is, everything will be so much better for me or for us after we move abroad. Reality, nothing will be better, only different, and you will face more challenges adapting to an unfamiliar culture.
But the study said that a majority, like 86 to 90%, are not just stressed, but they feel helpless and trapped and defeated. And this comes from a feeling of not having any control over situations. Well, and I think that people are also changing their priorities now. And it's not talked about that much, but a lot of people, just like ourselves, have decided that it's, better to be closer to family and friends and not necessarily have to be going to certain areas of the globe. For example, a lot of people are disappointed with Asia in general, with traveling to that area. And of course there's a lot of areas where, there's challenges. And similarly, expats, according to the study, are also choosing to stay closer, and it's part of why Mexico the tourism is still booming here, and part of why the prices are so much more buoyant here on rents and the cost of living. This is what I've noticed. If we're doing it, other people seem to be interested in doing it too. That's what I've noticed. If we're doing it, guess what? Other people want to do it too. There are others who want to do what you're doing.
So we have given you a lot to consider with this informational report today. If you feel like sharing it, it might be a good one to share. And what is the good news, I can hear you asking? Well, now that you know the score, you will know how to play. Kind of like going to the back of a new book to see what it says before reading the whole book. Have you ever done that? Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching our videos. Take care and bye-bye.